Hello, future millionaires. Now, just by taking the few minutes out of your day today to listen and learn from my experts today, you are already enriching yourself beyond measure. And for you, those of you who are new to the channel, welcome, number one. Just a little background. Each week, we are releasing a talking point relating to a specific topic based around investment, and in particular, investments into property. And today our talking point is actually based around exactly that, which is property, and more recently, the introduction of the Property Practitioners Act. And to answer some of the burning questions that you guys have asked, I've invited our resident property expert to join us. So Emile, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hello, Damien. It's only a pleasure. Hopefully it can be of value to the people out there.
Fantastic. Emile, now the first question that, for those who might not know, what is the Properties Practitioners Act and who does it affect?
This is brand new, Damien. It actually came into effect on the 1st of February, a couple of weeks ago already, and it replaces the old Estate Agencies Affairs Act. That act is very, very old. I think it was written in 1976 already. So hopefully with this new act, everything is related to current state of affairs. I think the most important thing about the new act is the reason behind it is to assist and protect our consumers a lot more. And the biggest change that obviously influence people like us who's in the profession, and also other people who is not professional estate agents that do business in property and or earn an income from property, they are now covered, possibly covered in the same act as well. And that relates to being registered and get a Fidelity Fund certificate as well. So it's a complete change from what the people are used to in the old Estate Agency Affairs Act.
Now, Emile, a lot of our clients are obviously property investors, and those who are not, they are planning towards being property investors. So now, if we're going to be looking at the new act regarding the registration for the Fidelity Certificate, which you mentioned, the FFC, from the point of view of a personal property ownership and ownership in trust, which is what most of our clients have, is properties in trust. You mentioned that there are two main stipulations in the Act that define the registration of property practitioners. The first one being people who receive remuneration for property-related activities, and the second one being people who perform any property-related services in their business or in a representative capacity, but not necessarily having the property owned in their personal name. So could you just talk us through those two stipulations a little bit more and give some more detail?
Yes, Damien. I think a very important part that affects those two stipulations is whether ownership is in your personal name or not. Our clients invest in property, but ownership are in trusts. So in effect, the trustee or whoever is tasked with renting out the property, i.e. not using an agent, those people need to register as, to get an FFC. I can't really say as a property practitioner, they can register in their personal capacity. But if the property is owned in their personal name, anybody, even if they own 100 or 1,000 properties, they own it in their personal name, they rent it out themselves, and the income that they earn is obviously for their personal name, then they don't need to register. They are not earning money out of the actions that are being done on a property or services being delivered on a property where a trustee with a trust, they are being delivering the service to the trust, and whether they earn money or not, they will have to be registered because they're representative. But if they earn money, then they will need to be registered anyway. Somebody's also asked me, what about, my mother and father's house? They just moved to retirement. So the house is there, we want to rent it out and I will be doing it. That is fine. It's one property. It is not your business. You're probably an accountant or whatever your profession is. So that is not something where you will register. But once you start going to 2, 3, 4, 5 properties and you earn commission or earn income from the property related service on those properties, you will need to register. So the distinction is either doing services, whatever the activity is, for somebody else on property, or being paid, being remunerated for services you deliver to somebody on property, and whether it's your own property or not. I think those are the distinctions that are most important and will classify you whether to register or not.
Now, Emile, you've spoken a little bit about the registration and having to register. What is that process like at the moment, and what does someone have to go through to get registered? Is it a lengthy process, or is it just a quick online, quick registration?
Well, at the moment, we don't have the property practitioners portal available yet to register. Currently registered estate agents, who are now called property practitioners, they still deal with the EAB. So yeah, whenever the portal is available for other people that now need to register, newly register, we will have to see what that system is like. They did make provision in the Act with regards to the issuing of the Fidelity Fund. If the body that needs to issue the Fidelity Fund certificate does not do so within 30 days, and you have submitted everything that you're supposed to and they didn't come back with queries, then it is accepted that you are registered, although you don't have a certificate. But once again, in the Act, they also stipulate if somebody asks you for your certificate, you must be able to produce it. So it's kind of, yeah, counteractive there. But at the moment, you know, the estate agents don't have a problem, but people from other professions that need to register now, personal people like trustees who do the managing for their trust, they have to interact with the EAB right now, although I'm not sure that the EAB will assist them until the new portal for the Property Practitioners Act is active.
Right. Now, Emile, we've had a couple of questions come through from the emailer that we sent out last week. So for those who don't know, every week, if you're a subscriber to the Wealth Masters Club, you'll receive an expert opinion on a specific topic or sector within the property investment industry. And we give you some great information there. So if you have not registered, we've got the link in the register or in the comments section below, and you can register to get that. So Emile, we've had a question or a couple of questions coming through from our clients that have read the article. And the first one being from Linda, she says, would the executor of a deceased estate have to register if they're renting out a property owned by the deceased?
Damien, yeah, in my opinion, no. I think the reason, the best reason to explain this is that it should be or would probably be in short term. So it will not be your normal course of business, being an executor, and that property is there either for the time being to be sold maybe, or to register to whomever needs to get the property. So I don't think somebody needs to register for an FFC in that situation.
Okay, then Emile, the next question we have is a little bit of a complicated one where our client has given us a scenario. So I'm going to explain that, and then I'll hand over to you just to answer a couple of the questions. So the scenario is as follows. There's a residential home that is held in a trust. Now, the donor who donated the property to the trust and the trustees occupy the property. The trust then obviously owns the property, but the donor is not a trustee of said trust. So the trust has signed a lease with the trustees, and property is not the donor's normal business activity. So is there an FFC required, and if so, by whom?
Damien, none of the parties mentioned. The trust, although a trustee needs to handle that particular lease agreement, if it is a residence trust only with the one residence in it, then I perceive that a trustee will handle the lease agreement, but it is once again only a once-off. It is not their business. So whether donor or trustee doesn't really matter. All parties will be mentioned in the lease agreement, but no party will need to have an FFC to enable them to conclude that lease agreement.
Right. And then the second part of that question from Garth says, do they need to cancel the lease? If so, what happens about the trustees using the assets of the trust for free with relation to the new Property Practitioners Act?
I don't see a reason to cancel the lease. Obviously, if you occupy the trust's property, you need to have a lease agreement in place, i.e. you need to have authority to live in the property, which is the lease agreement. So no, keep the lease agreement in place. And it needs to carry on like that. Nobody needs to register, once again, for FFC.
Great stuff. And then, Emile, we're going on to our final question that has come through from our clients who had the read. Now, this one's from Shawal, and there's 3 parts to the question. So they've asked, they would just like some clarity in terms of the following scenarios. And just to note that they have a day job and they invest in property as a second income. So basically going around the wealth mastery system and what we promote that we do. So scenario A is they own a property in a trust, but it's managed by a managing agent. In that case, who would require the FFC?
Only the managing agent.
Right. And then if they own a property in their own name and they collect the rent themselves, granted, we would assume that there's more than one property in this case as they are an investor, who would then require the FFC?
Yeah, there is no FFC required because it is owned in his or her personal name, and they do all the property related services themselves, and the money is coming to them personally. So it is a personal property, and they don't need to register.
Right. And then the final part of that question is, if they buy and sell properties with other individuals, and sometimes they sell it themselves, sometimes they use an agent, would they need an FFC as well as the agent, or would just the agent need that FFC?
Damien, as long as they buy and sell those properties in their personal names, they don't need a FFC. The agent obviously do. It doesn't matter if there's 1, 2, 3, or 5 parties. If it is their personal name, it will be regarded as their personal property. So you buy it, you own it, and you sell it. That is your property, and in effect, you can do with it what you want. So you don't need to register for an FFC. But if they do it in a company or a trust, then they will need to register.
Great stuff. Emile, thank you so much for the time. I know we threw quite a few questions in a short little period of time there. So if anybody has more questions or would like more information, how can they get hold of you?
Damien, my email address is Emile, E-M-I-L-E, @destinataholdings.com. Email is the best way of communication. Please provide your telephone number as well. Most of the time when I do get questions, I need some extra information. So I would like to give a call and just ask what I need to know before I give advice or insight. So best way is to email me, and thereafter I can either reply an answer or at least phone and find out what I need to know to supply an answer.
Brilliant. Emile, once again, thank you so much for the time. I know we will be speaking to you again in the near future because there's a lot more to unpack with the new PPA regulations. So we have shared some information in the description below along with Emile's email address. So if you would like any more information, please check the description below and you can get all of that there. Please also like and share this video as much as you can with anybody who you feel might get some value out of it. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get more weekly content as we will release a new talking point every week. Thank you so much for joining. And Emile, thank you so much once again for your time.
Only a pleasure, Damien. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you next week.